I don't like horror games at all. But I got to say, I like Dead Space. Dead Space is a survival action sci-fi horror game that was initially released in 2008 by Visceral Games and remade in 2023 by Motive Studios. You play as Isaac Clarke, an engineer who is sent to the US Ishimura after disturbance has been reported. You and your crew crash land onto the ship, thinking the worst is behind you.
Well, how hard can it be?
Don't say that!
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, man.
Take it easy. Daniels, get those elevators running.
There's something in here with us.
Turns out the ship has been overrun by alien creatures known as the Necromorphs, and it's up to the remainder of the crew to find out what has happened and escape. To start, let's talk about gameplay. You can carry up to 4 guns on your person, each with its own unique playstyles and strengths. You have the trusty plasma cutter, a well-rounded weapon suitable for most situations. You have the pulse rifle, which sucks ass, so you shouldn't use it. The Ripper, one of my personal favourites, as you conserve ammo with it and makes you witness the body horror and dismemberment the game has in spades. The flamethrower is grotesque and makes you appreciate the flesh-spinning mechanics. The line gun, which hits the hardest and has the ability to construct laser traps. And the legend itself, the contact beam. One remarkable detail I find is that except for the pulse rifle, all the weapons were previously engineering tools repurposed for combat, which is a nice touch. Since Isaac is an engineer, this will make him more comfortable with engineering tools than traditional weapons. However, all your weapons are rounded off with the good old stomp. You use the stomp to preserve ammo when you finish off the Necromorphs, and it helps you obtain items and resources from them. However, as Necromorphs crawl towards you, trying with all their might to murder you, they might be strong enough that you may need an extra shot to kill them, and simply stomping on them won't be enough. If you choose to stomp, you may be hit and then you'll be forced to use a health pack, so it almost builds a cat and mouse dynamic, even with Necromorphs you ostensibly defeat. Sometimes a stomp isn't enough, and sometimes it is. As you explore the Ishimura, you collect credits and upgrades you can use to buy and improve your weapons and your suit. With any sound economy system, there are clear opportunity costs between different options. You can buy health packs, but that reduces the credits you have for ammo and weapon schematics. More nodes invested in your suit means less nodes invested in your weapons, and vice versa. However, unlike in the original game, from what I've heard online, you unlock things at a much more reasonable rate. By the end of the game, I had heavily upgraded 4 weapons and had attained the second highest suit. Now, before Dead Space, the main horror-esque games I played were Fear and the 2 Last of Us games, and how they handled resource management is entirely different to Dead Space, and it took a while for me to get adjusted to it. In those games, resources were relatively abundant, so it was rare for me to ever run out of ammo. Also, The Last of Us allows you to stealth your way out of different encounters, which enables you to preserve ammo. In Dead Space, stealth is not an option and ammo is more scarce here. In fact, until the final third of the game, it was rare that I had over half of the maximum ammo for any gun I had in my inventory. There was enough ammo to complete most encounters, but it was low enough to keep you on your toes and force you to stay accurate. Speaking of accuracy, you know the drill, cut off the limbs. Unlike in other action games, you don't go for headshots, you're here to make quadriplegics. Why the original developers did this, I believe, is several-fold. It makes the game more unique and memorable, as every shooter ever rewards you for headshots, so attacking the limbs makes Dead Space stand out. It has you on your nerves and supports an action game design of accuracy. When an enemy charges at you, you want to be accurate and preserve ammo, but the scare and the thrill makes you want to dump all your ammo center mass, which is quicker but wastes resources. Going for the limbs makes you use more ammo, makes encounters longer, and helps you appreciate the dismemberment system the game has to offer. You're forced to witness the skin, blood, bones, muscles, tendons, and ligaments being torn piece by piece by Isaac. Motive Studios really went all in with how this game looks. As stated, the new dismemberment system is incredibly grotesque and makes you really appreciate all the ways you can kill Necromorphs. The flesh spinning mechanic with the flamethrower absolutely brutalizes the Necromorphs. One thing Motive did that adds to the gameplay and horror factor is how much darker it is than the original. This adds to the gameplay as target acquisition and being accurate with your shots can be more difficult in sections where it's all but pitch black. But let's face my fears and talk about the horror. From the start, the game immediately tells you that the scares in this game are unpredictable. You can be walking casually and all of a sudden, As stated earlier, the game is much darker with more shadows than the original. The game features significantly more shadows and areas that are almost pitch black. It makes the game feel incredibly tight and claustrophobic, as you don't know where the necrophores may pop out and give you the most inadequate of heart transplants. You will be caught off guard with the trick of one necromorph placed in front of you, with another sneaking up behind you.
It's Morgan's fault. That pencil pushing scazwag. Why, if she were here, Oh, is she behind me?
No, I'm in front of you.
Another significant aspect of the horror that ruins your blood pressure is the build-up to the scare. A good piece of horror media knows that the build-up to the scare can be just as scary as the scare itself. Dead Space does this masterfully via the anxiety-riddled music it plays, but Necromorph does not appear. It keeps you aware and on your toes, while simultaneously tripling your heartbeat. Remember, it's not so much the crazy aliens that scare you, it's how they are presented. And sure, the aliens are scary, well designed and straight out of Hot Topic, but how they confront and interact with the player keeps the tension high, even in the quiet moments. However, despite my disdain for horror, the scares weren't all that heart-wrenching and I wanted to continue playing, and I think it's due to the power fantasy the game offers you. You have multiple weapons, the ability to grab objects and slow down time in a specific area, all of which are useful when dozens of necromorphs are hounding down your ass. Dead Space straddles the line between action horror and survival horror thanks to the relatively high amount of resources the game gives you. In addition, the movement in the game is fast enough to evade, but not fast enough to escape completely, so in tight situations you can reposition Isaac into a more advantageous position and use more defensive weapons like the laser traps the line gun has. However, what stops the game from becoming a full-blown action game is the unpredictability of the enemy's appearance. They could come from anywhere. The floor, the ceiling, the vents, behind, to the side when doing a puzzle. Nowhere is entirely safe from the necromorphs, and the game still emphasizes accuracy and landing your shots, even in stressful situations. That, to me, is an incredible balancing act by the developers, where you don't feel completely hopeless, yet you still have to respect the enemy. So as a horror hater, where would I rank Dead Space? Honestly, I have to give it S tier. The atmosphere, the world building, the tension, and the amount of strategy you can employ during gameplay are so expansive that I can fully understand why this game is regarded so highly, why many consider it sci-fi horror perfection. So do yourself a favor and jump headfirst into Ishimura. Don't worry, there's nothing bad in the shadows. This is Zach, not Zach, signing off. Please remember to like, favorite, and subscribe.